give the Lakers financially to be able to put something around the three, because we saw that Anthony Davis. We know that Anthony Davis can't stay healthy, right? And throughout his career, we know that he's battled injuries. LeBron is getting older, and the Brody is old too. So, like, how can they fill this roster around? And also, two-part question: does now the pressure to win a championship fall on Westbrook more, or still on James Harden?
Well, let's start with that Laker roster first. Taylor Horton-Tucker's their own restricted free agent. I think you'll see them, find a way to get a deal done with him. He's going to play a bigger role on this team. But outside of Marc Gasol, he's the only other real, rotation player that's under contract. And so you are limited financially to who you can bring in, what you can pay him. You're going to, I think there's a $6 million mid-level exception and then a bunch of minimum deals. And you have to hope that players who get out in the marketplace, and maybe that guy who thought he was a 5, 6, 7, 8, $9 million a year guy doesn't get that. And then it's, do I go to the Lakers for a minimum? Do I go on a one-year deal to try to win a championship, try to improve my value, go play with this group? But you're right, they're going to need shooting around that group. I think every team in the league who has star power like LeBron, AD, Westbrook, everybody is chasing down those shooters. This is a league where certainly the role players have to make shots because star players gather so much attention defensively. But it's going to be a challenge for the Lakers to do that, to rebuild this roster. And you have three, certainly Westbrook, LeBron, two older players, Anthony Davis, more in his prime, but he has missed games. And so when you have the risk of injuries and guys who may miss time, you've got to have depth. That's going to be a challenge for the Lakers now as they try to piece this roster together here in free agency.
Adrian Wojnarowski, ESPN Senior NBA Insider, joining us in studio here on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. Bart Scott, Freddie Coleman on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Going to the second part of his question, who has more pressure now, has not won a championship involving those?
Because when you talk about the Miami days, I also remember them having a clutch shooter in Ray Allen. So, like, how can they go out, and who do you think they should target as somebody to acquire to give them some shooting? Because shooters, you can't just find shooters.
Well, I mean, boy, you got to understand, like, all right, first of all, you in Los Angeles, right? You in La La Land. That's the first thing. Now you talking about the Lakers, just one of the most historical franchises in the NBA and sports history. And now you're talking about going play with LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, and Anthony Davis. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of guys out there that would take the vet minimum. Guys like J.J. Redick. I mean, like,
true.
You could find shooters to come in and play with those guys. I mean, in sacrificing, it's not going to be hard at all.
So we're talking about another big three, right? We went through a period in the NBA where we had big threes everywhere. Now we had big twos, right? When you think about Paul George and Kawhi, you think about LeBron and Anthony Davis. Now it look like we're getting back to the big threes. But if you're a player, right, you talk about sacrificing maybe some money to go play with a big three. Are you picking Los Angeles or are you picking Brooklyn?
Well, I'm going with Los Angeles for the simple of LeBron James, right? And one thing about LeBron James, he knows what it takes to get to the mountaintop. I mean, look, when we talk about LeBron James' finals resume alone, it's longer than the holiday weekend. He has spent over 60% of his career in the NBA Finals. So one thing about it, he's going to get you there. Right. And if you want to have a for sure guarantee to get to the Finals, then you go with the Los Angeles Lakers and you put your trust in LeBron James because he hasn't let us down yet.
LeBron's your boy, right? And I don't want to be hogging, but you know what I'm saying? We got synergy. I ain't seen you in person yet, you know what I'm saying? Do you think LeBron James, did LeBron James either call the Uber or did he personally drive Kyle Kuzma to the airport?
I don't know, but he got him up out of there, right? They got him up out of there. And you know what? I wish Kyle Kuzma well. But
it wasn't even the Uber Black either.
Yeah, but it was it was way past due for him to leave. I mean, because just watching Kyle Kuzma, I think he needs to be on the team. First of all, he needs to be away from Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
Right, so that he could get his mental together and focus on basketball, right? We never questioned his talent, but we always questioned his IQ. It was plays where we're like, what are you doing? Why did you make that pass? What made you take this ill-advised shot? And he's just not that guy to come in and fit alongside Anthony Davis and LeBron James that's trying to win a title, right? And let me talk about Russell Westbrook again, because I'm excited about this team.
I could tell.
You remember, Freddie, boy, people said that Rondo and LeBron James couldn't be on the floor at the same time together.
Yeah.
But when it mattered the most, when it was closeout time, those guys were on the floor together. And what did Rondo do a great job of doing? Facilitating the offense, cutting off the ball, getting layups. LeBron James, that slice cut from the wing area. Like, they got it done.
Yeah.
All right. Great stuff by Kendrick Perkins, ESPN NBA analyst and NBA champion, joining Bart Scott and Freddie Coleman on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. What advice would you give Bradley Beal sticking around in Washington?
See, here's the thing about Bradley Beal, and this is the sticky situation. This is when the veteran side of me kicks in. You have to look at Bradley Beal, right? If he leave, he's going to leave about $77 million on the table. And I always tell guys that, especially when I was a veteran and a rookie, that you get your money first, right? I think sometimes we all get caught up in winning championships and forget that this is a job. And to me, I never want to knock a man from getting the most money that he possibly can. Sure. Bradley Beal is not like a Kevin Durant or a Steph Curry or LeBron James where they making a $500 million outside of basketball. So he has to capitalize on these contracts. And some guys, hey, just want to go out there and compete, play at the highest level, make all the money that they can, and let the chips fall where they may. So my advice to Bradley Beal is that, do you get your money, get as much as you possibly can. And if you get up in age, 2 years from now, you feel like you want to go to a team that want to go win a title, then go ahead and do so.
Okay.
So sign and trade. Well, any advice for Dame Dollar? Because he got the cheese, right? He you know what I'm saying? I don't know if his album flopped, but you know what I'm saying? He got that cheese.
Well, you know what? I tell you, this Russell Westbrook trade probably have Damian Lillard thinking a little bit differently now, right? You look at his team and you're like, okay, the Lakers have upgraded. They added Russell Westbrook. Like, can we really get better in Portland?
Yeah.
And I think you came up with it first. You told me about it. The ideal move is to Golden State.
Woj just bust my damn
popped
bubble.
that balloon about
And I don't know. When Woj hurt my
ago.
feelings, Woj told me there's no chance, and I'm trying to figure out why not, because we've seen Steph Curry can play off the ball. We've seen Steph Curry become less of himself and let Kevin Durant shine.
Where his mouth is, and he wants to sign for the Lakers mid-level exception because that's the most they can offer any free agent that's not already theirs. That's less than $10 million.
Okay.
If he wants to sign for that, I'm sure the Lakers would pop out the checkbook in an instant. Other than that, you're looking at sign and trade options. I don't know that there's any reason that San Antonio, with all the cap room they have, would be looking at doing a sign and trade. After that, they don't have options. That's it.
Yeah, it's hard to, he did say that it's not about the money, but it's hard to think that he would want to maybe go that low, Rez. Do you realistically see this coming to fruition?
Yes and no. That's a huge pay cut from what he made last season, almost a $20 million dip if he wants to sign for about $9.5 million. But if you listen to what he said in this podcast, he said he wants to win. Remember, he was the guy who was traded for Kawhi Leonard, missed out on that championship in Toronto a few years ago. So maybe he's still feeling a little uptight about that. He wants to win a championship, and hey, he looked pretty good right next to AD and LeBron. A very good mid-range game. Love what he can do with his mid-range. Not a big three-point shooter. That's the only knock against him, but a pretty solid defender too.
Watching the entire league and knowing how this goes, in 99% of the cases, I would say almost no shot whatsoever. The only thing is, this is the Lakers, and every once in a while, they pull one out of their hat.
Yeah.
So,
is this that time?
Is this another Carmelo, Gary Payton, sure, we'll come for nothing situation? Who knows? It's possible. I still wouldn't call it likely, but once in a while, the Lakers pull that off.